What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Moto Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Nesler. We come to you each and every week to talk to you about the business of Moto. Guests in the industry that have done incredible things, guests in the industry that are building incredible things, and sometimes even special guests from outside the industry that can bring you some incredible knowledge to help you build your Moto career. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Moto Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Nesler. We got an awesome guest lined up for you today. We'll introduce him here in just a moment. Before we dive in, just a reminder, be sure to go to racerxonline.com/Moto Marketing. You can get the latest and greatest promo for renewing or subscribing. Be sure to do that. It obviously helps RacerX bring you shows like this. Look, today's guest is somebody I'm excited to bring on. He's doing some exciting things in the sport. He is no stranger to the media. Everybody knows him, loves his athletes, and we're going to tell a little bit of his story today and what he's doing. We got Lucas Mirtl with us this afternoon, this morning, wherever you're coming from. Lucas, I appreciate you joining us, man. I've been excited to chat with you and looking forward to diving into kind of your story and what you're doing with your riders.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Excited to chat with you.
Yeah, man. Anytime you're on a show, it's always interesting. I think me being a business nerd myself, I'm always intrigued by it. But people that are just fans of the sport always love to hear what you're up to because you've got some of the most exciting riders that you work with, and you're doing some unique things with them. So we'll talk about that. But man, I always like to start with just about the guest and. Just been intrigued with how did you get to where you're at from the standpoint of, were you always a Moto fan? Like, I feel like that's a story that really hasn't been told much. So, I guess as short and concise as you feel like making it, how did this get started and how did you become, one of the most well-known agents in the sport today?
Originally mechanic, right? It's pretty simple. Come from a mechanic background. I worked in, I'm from Kalgoorlie, Western Australia, small gold mining town. Awesome town, the place to live and grow up around great people. A lot of people in that town are very successful in their own right in mining and whatnot. So always around great people like that, people I look to now. Obviously, then I went from the mechanic route, traveled the world with different athletes, mainly in the freestyle motocross space originally, then through to managing them, starting my own agency, then being acquired by the Wasserman Media Group. I think 8 years ago, my LinkedIn said. Wow. So time flies to where we are today. Yeah. But
so you started this from scratch. Like you were just like, one day you're like, man, I think I can do this better than the other people out there, and you just started representing riders. Just kind of.
I don't even think it was like a conscious as that, right?
Yeah.
It was more. I was a mechanic earning in the freestyle space, so my athletes would pay me $2,000 an event, right? So if we didn't do any events for 2 months, I was pretty hungry, right? We were struggling, right? Back then, the freestyle scene was pretty relaxed and laid back. Athletes were hard to get a hold of. But every promoter in the world knew my number. So like it was as simple as a promoter would call me or a sponsor would call me because they couldn't get a hold of the athlete, right?
Yeah.
And it just was simple. Well, just do my stuff. Myrtle, do my stuff. And I'd be like, wait, I still getting paid as a mechanic, right? Yeah. It was very simple. So it came from the same place I think every mechanic, professional mechanic who works with professional athletes comes from, where you take care of the guy, you take care of their safety, their health, their well-being on the motorcycle. I've very much carried that across into the tie-in from being a mechanic to an agent manager. Mm-hmm. It's the same principles I kind of carried through, right? And it wasn't, just to be clear, it wasn't like all of a sudden I was a mechanic and then I was at a bar telling girls I'm a sports agent or like that, right? I didn't feel comfortable saying I was a sports agent for about 4 years, right? I was more just like, I'm just helping my guys out, right? Because where I'm from in Australia, you do apprenticeships, right? And I see a lot of people, oh, I'm a manager, or I'm this, and it's like right away, right? I didn't feel comfortable saying that until I could look an athlete in the eye and say, I got you if this scenario happens. If plan B, C, D, E, F, and G doesn't work, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Right. So I never felt really comfortable calling myself like, oh, I'm a mechanic now, I'm an agent. No, I didn't think you're an agent until I kind of had personal goals of what it took to be an agent, a certain number of deals or volume of deals. I don't think you can call yourself an agent unless you represent X amount. You can do agent work, but I don't know if you can call yourself an agent on that. And I kind of worked on that principle. It took me a solid 4 years to be comfortable anyway saying, hey, Lucas Mirtl's an agent, right?
I feel like a lot of it's just like entrepreneur, 10 years ago, like meant that you were broke and didn't have a real job. And now everybody wants to call themselves an entrepreneur. But I do think there are things that you have to achieve before you're actually an entrepreneur. And I'm getting that vibe from you on the agent side. That's even to me, I mean, it's a cool, intriguing job. Like it's a sexy title to have. And I feel like it's probably, there's people probably popping up in the sport now that want to just call themselves that, a little bit premature. So that's cool that you didn't want to even bring that up. So you started. It's cool. I didn't realize that you started out as a mechanic. I always kind of wondered like what got you into the sport. So you're helping your guys get gigs. When did it start to get real? Like, I guess a better question: when did you make the jump from Australia to U.S. and start really going all in and focusing on building up your base of athletes that you were working with and helping? Was there one moment that was like, okay, it's time for me to go all in on this?
Yeah, it was when I was too busy doing this, right? Like I was too busy to be a mechanic, right? It kind of got to that point where I was either going to take it really, really serious, and and it was my dear and best friend, late Jim McNeil, who was the one who believed in me and was kind of the one who said, like, you should just do this, right? Like, he was the one who believed in me and gave me the confidence to go do it, right? He gave me credibility amongst the world at that point in the action sport world. He was one of the most loved guys, and he was probably the first guy to say, no, like, Lucas is a better agent than your guy. Like, use Lucas. Or just the different small things that happen in life. It was more just a conversation in Jim McNeil's kitchen, right? Like, as innocent as it sounds, just to kind of go, you know what, like, dude, you're good at this, and you should do this, right? And do this for everyone, right? And then we kind of didn't really look back. It wasn't all, all bright sunny days. It's gone through my fair share, which anyone who's successful has gone through, right? That's not unique to anyone successful that has had bad days. I've had plenty of bad days. Should have quit 1,000 times. Financially, and both, it just wasn't working out, So I stuck at it and believed in what I actually brought to the table, my vision of what athlete representation was going to look like in the future compared to what it had been in the past, and my own unique style that I believe I took and believed in more of that process than being successful. I believed in there was a hole, there was a need. Yeah.
So when you were working with freestyle guys, was there a transition to where, I mean, obviously freestyle and race guys have always been pretty closely intertwined, even though they're different aspects of the sport. Was it just an easy, natural transition to start getting into the racing scene, or did you look at it from a business move? Like, man, if I'm going to do this, I need to really start acquiring some athletes there. Like, how did that transition come about?
It was always a place I'd like to be, but it wasn't like, oh, I need race guys now. It was just when the timing was right. I think I started working with Jeremy Martin. We did some good stuff, especially with Jeremy. We were very, we did some good work, especially on the marketing side of things, of when we started working together to where he was now. I can't comment on where he is today on that side of things, but we did some good work there, and I think people in the space really saw it, right, and wanted more, and just kept growing from there. But there wasn't like, oh, I need motocross guys now. Everything for me is just being, I don't want to do something unless I'm going to be successful at it, right? I don't want the worst deals I've ever done have been about money, right? The worst deals, like the best thing in I think business is you leave it better or you can make it better, right? And that's where it, most people who talk to us or talk to me go, oh, I want to be this. It's not about that. It's what, can you make a positive change? Can you leave it better than you found it? Kind of that mentality. So it wasn't like, I would be more financial healthy if I represented motocross guys. No, I felt just that was the time and the right fit was there to create change and make it better for someone. And whether it was Jeremy Martin and the athletes that followed, it was a very natural progression in, rather than a conscious decision saying, this is more valuable space to be in, or whatnot.
For sure. So, and I want to get to some of the progressive stuff that you're doing in the sport now with your athletes, but kind of catching your story up to current time. So you got acquired by Wasserman, and obviously you had to have been making some noise in order to get the attention of a group like that. Was there? I can only imagine that if something like that were to happen in a business that somebody creates from nothing and they get acquired by a name like Wasserman, was there a moment where you're like, holy shit, like I've made it? Or was it just, I mean, with me, like I'm always so head down that it's hard for me, and a lot of times I miss like the progress I've made because I'm so in the moment. Was there that point where you're like, okay, I'm damn good at this. I've done something pretty special here in order to get this opportunity with Wasserman? Or was it just kind of, you didn't even realize it was just another day type of a thing?
That's a good question. I don't think at this level of business or there's no like pat on the back. That's right. You're always on to the next thing, right? There isn't a so-called goal, right? Look, obviously it was big for me, but I also felt like, if I screw up from here, now I screw up, you're just a bigger platform to screw up or fail on, right? So I don't think I spend any days feeling like I've made it. I feel potential. I work like I'm the underdog, right? I work every day like someone's working twice as hard to take it from me, right? And off my athletes. So I don't think there was like a moment where like, oh, you're at Wasserman now, you've made it. It was like, nah, there's some really, really talented people at Wasserman. I felt maybe this big in some meetings going in to where I am today. And I probably had to buckle down and work 10 times harder and prove my worth there. So, honestly, it wasn't like, oh, we've made it, we're good. Type pressure. It's professional sports. That's what I tell a lot of people. Professional sports can be over tomorrow, no matter who you are, how good you are, or how good you think you are.
It's funny. I've done a ton of interviews. I mean, this show alone, I think we're on episode 105 or something like that. But beyond that, outside of the sport, I've done interviews with people that have, $100 million a year businesses. I've done interviews with billionaires. Like, I've never once had somebody that is extremely successful look at it and be like, yeah, there's that, pat on the back moment. Like, it's everybody that has ever done something and charges forward and do great things. Like, they all have that same mindset. And I think that's, for a lot of the listeners, we have a lot of young folks that want to get into the industry and want to build something from scratch. I think it's an important attribute of somebody that's going to build something, whether, Lucas, it's what you've done, or, if somebody has a product they're developing. Those that are successful never really kind of look up and smell the roses. They're always head down and it's business as usual. Man, a lot of the stuff you're doing is, I don't know. Everybody always has their opinion on what can make the sport bigger, and a lot of the opinions, are interesting. Some of them are completely out there and crazy, but man, you, hands down, you can almost always tell when it's one of your athletes because of the things they're doing and the way you guys do things. It's different. And obviously everybody knows that, you're a massive part of the Lawrence Brothers program, and I think they're a really good example. Most recent thing that you've done is the whole press conference thing with two of the most popular riders in the sport. Best of my knowledge, it's never really been done anything like that. And I don't know, what is it about your athletes and the way that you go about letting them be themselves and be vocal, and then just the way you put them on these different stages, whether it's a press conference or, when Jet did his deal with Red Bull, they had the crazy single track rhythm section. There's all these unique projects. Where do those ideas come from, and what type of role do you play in those types of programs and projects?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to really answer it is come from we're in entertainment, right? And I probably think about that more than the end result of what people will see, right? And I think our sport and sports is experiential, right? Like you experience, and that level of enjoyment it comes from your experience, right?
Yeah.
So everything I kind of try do with my athletes, not just the Lawrences, like Shimoda, we have some stuff going on with filming in Japan. I want people to experience it, right? And I guess that's where it comes through. How come if you're a fan of, let's just say, Jet Lawrence, how can I, as Jet Lawrence manager, as Jet Lawrence's agent, how can we enhance that experience of being a Jet Lawrence fan? How can you enhance the experience of being a Joe Shimoda fan? How can we enhance the experience of being a Ryan Villapoto fan, right? So I go on that, right? I go on. That's what builds these properties or projects we do is how can it enhance the end user, which is our customer, which is the fan, right? And as a professional athlete representative, what we sell or how we project that athlete is how it interacts and gives an experience for that fan.
Yeah.
Certain athletes, everything they do is just awesome. You look at Travis Pastrana, you look at Tom Brady, you look at all these guys, they leave people in a better place after their interview. They leave people in a way better understanding of where they're at after this stuff. So I kind of make these decisions. It's a group thing. It's not always me. There's great partners I get to work with, right? That share the same vision, right? Overall, I think as Supercross is a sport and Motocross is a sport, it's the best sport in the world. It's the coolest sport. We're the cool guys, right? And I was only saying this weekend, we are the cool guys. McGrath, 96, Terraforma 2. Tell me, and then that came out, that we were the cool guys. That was the guy. Hoop earrings, bleached hair, airwalks, spy sunglasses. I remember that to a T. Mm-hmm. Fortunate enough to have his bike behind me, right? I remember that to a T. And then we got so lost.
Yeah.
We went from McGrath, the Emig era, which was just so good for the sport. We wouldn't be where we are today, to this era, and no fault of their own, to where we've now promoted. These guys are the fittest guys in the world.
Yeah. These
guys are, they're so fit. Oh, they eat healthy. They're like a triathlete.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? No one gives a shit about that. No one cares. Our consumer at the race is drinking $18 beers and is probably going to eat nachos, chicken wings, and have a fucking good time. Mm-hmm. Excuse my language,
no, you're
right?
Good.
But he's going to have a great time, right? And us as a sport, since that era, we enhanced that eat healthy. This guy ran, he cycled 100 miles this week. We kind of led with this fitness thing. Well, unfortunately, the world on a Saturday night is someone's trying to catch a buzz, watch a little bit of racing, eat 3,000 calories, and I'm here for it. I respect it. I think that's awesome. Most people are working 50, 60 hours a week, and it's 3 hours, 4 hours on a Saturday night. They don't need to be jammed this fitness thing. It has its space, right? Don't get me wrong. But I just think as a sport, we led with the wrong thing, and we isolated people, and our fans don't care how much Joe Shimoda, Max Volan, Ryan Villapoto trained. They don't care. Saturday, 3 hours on a Saturday night, entertain me.
Well, I feel like when an outsider looks at our sport, they never once have I ever had it mentioned to me about how fit those guys are. It's always they're the daredevils, and there's always like highlight reels of like crashes and extreme stuff. It's never once been, he's fit like Michael Phelps, or it's so that narrative has been pushed for a very long time, and I feel like you still have them coming out today to where you get these very robotic guys that go to the race, they're there to win, they're very awkward in any type of interview, they're very quiet, and then when they leave, you don't really get anything from them. As an agent, you're extremely creative, right? So you want to do these things. Are you looking at someone you're like, man, I really would like to work with them, or there's some people you're like, I could not help that person because they don't have the personality that I would need in order to do what Lucas Mirtl is going to do with somebody? Is that part of what you're looking at with an athlete?
No, not at all. Like, there's certain guys which it's their wheelhouse. They'll win Saturday, sell Monday, right? And it's a small wheelhouse. Like, they still need management on their deals and all that. Like, we're really just talking about the select guys that really can embrace that marketing guys. And I represent a lot of guys that we just won't pull stuff off that you can pull off with other riders, right? And there's still a place for them in my roster and in my everyday work. I work just as hard, right? And there's a lot of stuff. There's just other stuff that you can pull off and execute with other guys.
Yeah.
I help them, and it won't be like the robots of the past. I'll never let it get to that mundane, miserable champion kind of thing we had going, which sucked, right? Yeah. That miserable champion that,
Talk to me about, so when you say that, it makes me think of Villopoto, and everybody knows he went through this massive transition of he was that miserable champion. Like, he looked like he just hated the sport at all times, and now he's one of the most fun, outgoing guys. It's at all these different events. I did the Monster Energy Master at the Pit thing in PA or Ohio with Bitus. It's where he hurt his knee, and it was just different than the Ryan that was winning championships. Was that something that you worked with him on, or did he genuinely just have kind of a change of heart and kind of woke up and wanted to come back to the sport type of a thing?
No, it's something. Again, great question. I don't think everyone's like that. Like, yeah, Ryan Dunn, all these other guys, away from it, they're all fun guys, right? And there's a lot of pressure, right? And it leads to a bigger discussion. There's a lot of pressure, right? The pressure on Jet, Jove, Max Volan, Hymus, all these young kids that I put them under, and I'm a part of it, right? What were you doing at 17? What were you? The stuff I ask of these guys is tremendous, right? And that needs to be managed and be made aware of, right? What we put these kids under. Imagine being 17 years old, right? Working all week only to be judged after 15 minutes plus one on a Saturday night. Mm-hmm. That I couldn't have done that. Like, I wouldn't want that. I don't think most people working their normal job would want to work all week and then have to deliver for 15 minutes, and then the whole world will judge you how good you are at your job, right? After that. So there's a huge pressure that just comes with that, right? And then, so the key thing is to make it fun, right? And loosen it up, right? So the personality can come out there. Like Ryan, when you're earning and expected to win championships, you don't win and celebrate. And it's not like, oh my God, I'm king of the world, I'm the best there is. No, it's relief, right? It's a relief factor that comes in at that level, right? So I don't blame the athlete. I blame the scenario, and I believe wholeheartedly that situation can be manipulated so you can have the weight of the world on your shoulders. And guess what? You can enjoy it. You can show your fans how much it means to win these things, and express how you feel, and do it on different avenues through media, press conferences, and all that. This thing's fun. It won't last forever. Enjoy it. Yeah. Yes, I know you want to win the championship. I know everyone does, and it'll be incredibly disappointing if athletes don't win championships. It does. I'm an emotional guy. I feel the same way. Yeah. But you got to enjoy it. And so I really think we just cemented it further and further and dug a hole. Like, no, you're paid to win. If you don't win, it's a failure. No, it's actually not. Like, you can finish second and win the podium. You can win the crowd. You can you can impact people's lives, right? And make a difference and give them a moment, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Either through the TV, in person, or through a product or something you do.
Yeah.
So,
man, something that I've noticed with three of your riders specifically, you know, with Shimoda, and then even though Joe is very different than Jet and Hunter, I get this. I'm trying to think the easiest or the best way to articulate this. So I get this. There's this like a appearance of those guys that I feel is very F1-ish, meaning. And I know that Jet and those guys are friends with Daniel and whatnot, but it's almost like their brand is elevated, like the sense of fashion with the Lawrence brothers, where they're at. They're at a Formula One race. Like, I don't know. I feel like they're almost being positioned as this elevated level of athlete compared to some other really strong riders like Justin Cooper and some of the other guys that aren't necessarily positioning themselves in the same way as maybe an F1 athlete would. I don't know if I'm articulating that the right way, but is that solely just?
I know exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a conscious decision, right? Like most thing you see on that is a conscious thing. I think a pro athlete is a marketing tool, and I think you always got to show the world a whole lot more than you twisting a throttle, right? And I'll always encourage that. It's easier to be multi-dimensional from fashion to what you're into. If it's golf wholeheartedly, let's show that, relate, right? Be yourself, essentially, right? So if you're into sneakers, you're into your fashion, you're into apparel, then let's lead with that. That's what we're into. It's different. But if you're just stick to, I'm Lucas Mirtl, the racer, and I thank my sponsors in this, and I'll just toe this line. Well, there's only so much you can do, right? Yeah. Essentially, an athlete like that, go win the race.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know. Go win the race. You'll earn bonuses, and your next contract will be bigger, right? Right. There's not a whole lot of transaction of that. There's no growth. There's no growth after racing if you're like that, right? Like your value is built on a right result, which unfortunately you can't ever guarantee, especially in this sport, right? Yeah. So no, every chance I get an athlete, I want them to be themselves. I want to lead with that, what they're into, what their strengths are, if it's looks, but definitely to stand out, and if it's definitely there to stand out and just break the norm, disrupt a little, right? Because I'm bored, like I said, in the 90s and the early 2000s, we were the coolest guys on the block, right? We were the cool guys. Supercross, motocross, it was a cool sport. And people still are, like MotoGP guys, F1 guys, we're the cool guys. We got the cool sport. You got all the cool stuff. And start acting like it, yeah? That's kind of my philosophy, right? Like, let's start acting like it, right? Have personality.
I think that's the easiest word that sums it all up, is personality. I mean, something that resonated with me. This was a couple years ago, but I'm a big watch guy. I have a smart watch on today that doesn't do me much justice. But I like collecting watches. I have never once resonated with anybody in the moto community on that same thing that I'm into. And then Hunter, I forget what show he was even on, but he just talks about his obsession with watches and like just stuff you never hear athletes talking about. And then at your guys' press conference with Jet and Hunter, they're not decked out in Honda corporate, Jet's looks like he could be in some street magazine. And now, you have Joe, and Joe is still shy, and I know English is a second language, but I feel like Joe's coming out of his shell, and he's got the earring, he's got the highlights in his hair. Like it's the fashion that it's the first thing that catches somebody's attention, and it shows that personality. I just see it with your guys, and it's always caught my attention, and I think it's really cool. And I hope it's something that the industry can build on and maybe encourages some other guys that have that to come out of their shell, because I feel like that's going to be what grows the sport, is if it's appealing to people that are outside of the sport, and the fitness thing is not it, like you had said.
No one cares about. I don't think I'll ever lead on anything marketing or promotional wise of any of my athletes about how fit they are. what they do. There's a checkered flag that will prove how fit they are.
Yeah.
Right. How quick you get to that thing, and if there's anyone in front of you or not.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny, like we've always led with fit, and then you look at some of these guys, and yes, they're monsters, but I don't think there's one person that looks at Adam Cincerillo and that doesn't understand the sport and is like, man, that is a specimen. Like a lot of our guys are fit, but it doesn't look like what the normal society would consider fit. So I've always felt that was a poor thing to lead with, and the personality a lot of these guys is intriguing. One of my final questions, and I know it's a question I have, and I know a lot of people wonder it. So, a day in the life of Lucas Mirtl, is it? And I think it's pretty cool. You got Jacob Hayes working alongside you now, and are you in constant contact, like multiple times a day, with your guys and their sponsors? Like, what does that look like? As much as you can share, but just curious, what a day in the life of Lucas Mirtl would look like on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon, not at the races.
Like today, I spoke to Hunter. I could just go through my day and my schedule right there. We had a phone call with Europe with Jeremy Sealer. I got a phone call with the agent I'm working with, who I just employed over there in Europe with Wasserman. From there, I had a phone call with Hunter, Joe Shimoda, then a meeting with Jacob Hayes. Then we have this thing. We had this. Then we've got to set a schedule for tomorrow. We got travel. It's full time, right? Like basically a Monday is really catching up with my clients, catching up with Jacob, making the game plan for the week, setting a schedule for the week to be kind of followed as good as I can. I'm not very good at following the schedule, but no, definitely, you know, it's I was yesterday my call log, you know, that app, right? Yep. That tells you how much screen time.
Right.
So I'm over 13 and a half hours a day on phone time, right? So it's just constant. It's constant work and reevaluating, creating, you know, I think the key thing is making something better than you found it. And that's at the start of the day to the end of the day to 2 years from now to 6 months from now. Everything's planned out. And I think that's what it's disappointing for sometimes us as an agent and a manager, because people just see a deal happen. They'll be like, that makes sense. And they have no idea that this deal was planned 18 months ago. We're working on stuff right now for 2024 and we're late, you know? Yeah. And that's my style as a management, and Jacob Hayes and everyone, is to really, it takes planning, right? None of this happens by accident. At least my stuff doesn't. Anything you see, it's 6 months in advance. The press conference, that was way in advance to Shimoda's Pro Circuit deal, his Fox deal, the different stuff. A lot of this stuff, if bowling, everything's planned way in advance. It's just not like, oh, this just happened. But for the general consumer and the fan, press release goes out or a video drops or whatnot, right? It looks like maybe one email done, but it does take a level of planning and working with companies in marketing and you know, and getting these done. So yeah, it's a full schedule.
Are you familiar with Gary? Are you familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk? He's a business personality. You ever heard of Gary V?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
He has vlogs that follow his life around and just show all the stuff he does during the day. We need to get a Myrtle vlog that just I honestly think that would be pretty damn cool. I know you can't show probably 90% of what you do. Man, it would be cool for everybody to see just everything that goes into doing what is required to pull off what you guys pull off for your athletes, and how you have guys like Jacob on your team, and you know, so it's pretty cool, man. I have a lot of respect for what you're doing. You're making the sport a more interesting place, and I love your work, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do next, man. It's been awesome.
No, I appreciate the kind words, honestly. You know, I hope if that would be my legacy, to be honest, that we left, you know, athletes, myself, left it in a better place than we found it, right? Yeah. And it's kind of just my theme with with work and life in general, right? I think we can all grow together and become, well off together, to financially better off together. I don't think it's more a collaborative effort that I want for the sport. And doing a podcast like this, it just educates just one person and makes them better off. They think about something and go, I'm gonna do this in the life, or in their life, or in their profession, right? I think when it comes down to what we're talking about, Supercross, I think we're in a great spot. No matter, I read tweets and everything. The sport's healthy. It's awesome. We're 4 rounds in, right? Yeah. And the stadiums are packed. The impact it has on people, it's incredible. As does the outdoors. I think we're an incredibly great place, and it's onward and upwards. And I disagree with the people who say, the sport's not growing or this, right? It's not gonna grow, right? It's not gonna grow to take NFL Sunday night on NBC. Right. Like, no, we're just trying to move it, just make it a little bit better, right? And that's where, like, everyone likes to grab a headline and go, oh, Lucas says he's going to grow the sport. No, I'm not saying that I'm growing it and we're going to be on Sunday night NBC live. That's not reality. We're a motorsport, right? And not everyone has the luxury and the good fortune to be able to ride a motorcycle at a young age, or even as an adult. So that's always going to be up. But if we can make it more accessible, we can make people more interested in it, and it's just going to be 1% at a time, right? It's going to be 1% here, 2% here, 1% here. And I think more people enjoy it, and it would create more jobs, and it would create more, long-term healthy business around us. So
absolutely.
Anytime to talk about it, and I don't have all the answers. I learn every day. I make just as many mistakes as the next guy, but
yeah, man,
I think it's all in a great spot.
Yeah, for sure. And it's again, it's definitely been exciting to watch what your guys, your athletes are doing, and it's definitely more entertaining. That's for sure. And yeah, man, I'm super appreciative you made time for us. I know you guys have quite the schedule, so I think everybody will be excited about this episode, and looking forward to having you on again sometime in the future. And I appreciate you making time for us today.
Not a problem. Anytime, mate. Really do appreciate you guys, and we'll see you soon.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, bud.
Thank you for listening to the Moto Marketing Podcast. If your goal is to get real, measurable results from your marketing that will grow your company revenue, then check out how Impact Media can get the same results that they have for Moto's most iconic brands by visiting thinkimpact.com. That's THINKIMPAKT.com. Have a marketing question that you want answered on the show? Send your questions to questions@motomarketingpodcast.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And we'll catch you on the next episode of the Moto Marketing Podcast.